The door creaked on its hinges, slow as if the house itself were holding its breath. Dust swirled in the beam of dying daylight. A man's shadow stretched long across the floorboards. His boots paused and stepped inside. A knife flashed. "Don't move." The voice was young, sharp as broken glass. From the corner of the room, a girl stood with her back to the hearth, blade clenched tight. Her hair was ragged, eyes feral, the kind that measure man like prey. The veteran didn't reach for the Colt at his hip. He let the silence ride between them, broken only by the faint crackle of fire in the hearth and the restless wind clawing at the shutters. "This house is mine," he said, his tone low, steady, almost weary. The girl laughed without warmth. "A deed won't save you here. This land don't belong to the living." His scarred hand twitched against his thigh, but he held his ground. The air smelled of wood smoke and old ash, as though death had settled into the walls long ago. From outside, the wind shifted. Hooves whispered across hard pan, distant but certain. The man's eyes flicked the window. A crow settled on the fence post, black wings folding like a curtain. The girl saw where he looked. Her voice dropped. "They circle, always circling. The vultures." He studied her then, taking in the dirt smudged on her face, the way her bare feet gripped the boards, knife never trembling. She wasn't afraid. She was waiting. He stepped further in. The boards groaned under his weight. The knife rose higher. "You draw steel," she said, "and you'll bleed like the rest of Am." His reply came flat, almost like a memory. "I've bled before." The fire hissed, throwing sparks. For a breath, the two stood locked in the dim, smoke-shadowed room, one carved by war, the other by survival. Then, slowly, he reached to his coat pocket. Her stance stiffened, knife ready to strike. He pulled nothing but a folded paper. A deed, edges worn, signed and sealed. $1, he said. "That's what I paid." The girl's mouth curled bitter. "You paid for a grave, stranger." Her knife lowered, but only enough to let him pass. He crossed to the table and set the deed down, the parchment soft against scarred wood. The house creaked again, as though it remembered other hands, other voices. He sank into a chair. The girl remained standing, watching the way a wildcat watches a cage rattler. "You got a name?" she asked finally. He stared at the scar, cut deep across his hand. The fire painted it red. "Not one that matters." Silence thickened. Outside, the wind moaned through broken boards of the barn. The crow took wing, cawing as it vanished into the dusk. The girl moved closer to the fire, knife still in hand. She bent, fed another stick into the flames. Her eyes flicked toward him again. "My pa built this place. My ma cooked right here." She tapped the hearth with the knife's edge. Then the vultures came, took it all, left me to rot. Her words carried no tears, only grit. She turned sharply. "Why'd you come?" His gaze held hers across the flickering firelight. He didn't answer. Or maybe he couldn't. The night deepened. Shadows climbed the walls. Somewhere out in the distance, a horse whinnied, sharp and restless. The girl stilled, head tilted. "Hear that?" He nodded once. The scar on his hand burned. Hoof beats again, closer now. Slow, deliberate. The girl tightened her grip on the knife. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "They're watching. They always watch." He rose from the chair, his frame tall in the dim glow, coat brushing the floorboards. The air pressed heavy between them, as if the night itself leaned in to listen. "You gonna run?" she asked. He walked to the window, peered into the dark. The horizon flickered with a low fire glow, too steady for lightning. He shook his head. "No." Her knife lowered just slightly. A strange thing stirred in her expression, part disbelief, part hunger for someone to finally stay. He turned from the window, his shadow looming across the room. "You can hide behind fear, or you can fight." Her jaw tightened. "Fight!" He looked at her, eyes dark as storm water. "That's all there ever is." For the first time, the knife wavered. Just a breath. She saw something in him. A man who carried war in his silence, whose steadiness spoke of blood already spilled. The wind rattled the shutters like bones in a box. The man sat again, calm as stone. The girl stayed by the fire, knife in her lap, eyes never leaving him. The room smelled of smoke and dust, of something older than both of them. Beyond the walls, hoofbeats faded into silence. The night seemed to settle, but unease lingered like a shadow stretched too long. When she finally spoke, her voice was quiet, almost reverent. "You ain't who you say you are." His scar hand clenched. The fire popped, sparks leaping like gunfire. He did not answer. The girl stared into the flames, whispering words meant for herself more than him. "They'll be back. With fire. With blood." He closed his eyes. For a moment, he looked older, as if war had never left him. The crow's call echoed faint across the canyon. The night held still, and in that silence the ranch waited, its story sharpening like a blade yet to be drawn. Torches hissed in the wind, their smoke drifting low over the dry earth. Riders fanned out across the ridge, shadows stretching long under the pale moon. The house stood alone in the center, its windows glowing faint with firelight, its fences broken like ribs. The girl crouched behind a table, rifle tight in her arms. Sweat slid down her brow, though the night was cold. Across the room, the scarred man loaded his revolver with a slowness that was steady, certain, like he'd done 1,000 times before. The first shot cracked through the silence. A window shattered. The girl flinched, with splinters brushing her cheek. "Hold," the man murmured. More gunfire rattled against the walls. The ranch shook. Horses screamed outside. He moved to the door, shoulders low, revolver lifted. The girl's breath quickened. He gave no signal, no plan. Only his eyes met hers, and she understood. The door burst open. An outlaw stepped through, torch raised. The man fired once. The body fell into the dust. The girl's rifle kicked against her shoulder, flame flaring in the barrel. Another rider tumbled from his saddle. Scream cut short. Her hands shook, but her aim was true. The night became thunder, gunshots, hoofs pounding, shouts rising. Fire spread from the barn, smoke twisting black into the stars. The girl reloaded clumsily, breath ragged. The man stepped into the doorway, his silhouette carved against the burning night. Each shot he fired found its mark, clean, final. The vultures fell one by one, their torches scattering into the dirt. Yet more came. A tide of riders, black dusters and red scarves, circling tighter. The girl's eyes widened. Too many. "Breathe," he said, voice sharp as command. "Slow. Breathe with the earth." She steadied, sighted down her rifle, fired. Another outlaw fell, twisting from his saddle. But the circle closed. Flames licked the corral. The air grew choking, heavy with ash. Then the riders parted. A single figure rode forward, tall in the saddle, black coat, sweeping the dust, face half hidden beneath a brim. The outlaw leader. His voice carried low, cold. "This land is mine. Always was. Always will be." The girl froze. Her grip tightened on the rifle, hate burning through her fear. "That's him." The scarred man stepped into the open, revolver lowered at his side. His scar caught the firelight, red like a brand. The riders fell silent, watching. The leader's gaze fixed on him. "So," the ghost finally crawls out from the grave. The girl's eyes darted. "You know him?" The man did not answer. His silence was answer enough. The outlaw sneered. "Ash Hollow. That's the name they whispered. A killer dressed up as a soldier. Thought you'd buried that hand. Thought you'd laid down that gun." The girl's breath caught. Her eyes flew to the scarred man. His jaw tightened. His revolver lifted, slow as sunrise. The outlaw dismounted, boots thudding against the hard earth. The circle widened. Every rider watching, silent, waiting. Dawn bled across the horizon, painting the sky in red and gold. Two figures stood in the dust, 30 paces apart. The girl whispered from the doorway, voice trembling, "Don't." Neither man moved. The world itself seemed to hold its breath. The fire crackled. A crow screamed from the canyon. The outlaw's hand twitched. The gun flashes came like lightning. 1, 2, 3. Silence. The outlaw staggered, clutching his chest, then crumpled into the dirt. Dust rose and settled. His torch rolled from his hand. Flames snuffed in the sand. The scarred man stood, revolver smoking. Blood stained his side, dark against the pale dawn. But he did not fall. The riders shifted uneasily, their leader dead. One by one, they turned their horses, melting back into the horizon without a word. The girl ran to him, rifle falling from her grasp. "You're hurt." He pushed her hand away, eyes on the revolver in his grip. Slowly, he opened his fingers. The gun slipped from his palm, landing in the dust. He looked at her then, the firelight fading from his face. "The land's yours now." Her mouth trembled, but no words came. He turned from the ranch, from the girl, from the blood, and the dawn. Step by step, he walked into the rising sun, his figure thinning into the glow. The wind carried his last shadow across the earth. Then even that was gone. The girl stood in the doorway, smoke curling behind her, rifle forgotten at her feet. The ranch still burned, but it was hers now, saved, scarred alive. Somewhere in the canyon, the crow cried again, and the story began its long journey into legend,